0.9 billion naira Afro scholarship for 54 BORNO students. Army arrests Boko Haram drone supplier, neutralizes commander in northeast. African Union signs deal to advance civil nuclear energy. And DAKAR launches EFEST Africa to become continental tech hub. And away from Africa, Ukrainian MOURN lost homes and loved ones after 4 years of war. In business, FG defers 70% of 2025 capital budget to 2026. In health, Togo intensifies childhood vaccination drive post-COVID-19. Still in health, NAFDAC seals 18 warehouses in Niger State over expired food products. And finally, in sports, USMAN sets sights on 2 Division UFC legacy before retirement. And now the news in full. Governor Babangida Zulu of BORNO State has approved a 12.9 million naira scholarship scheme to sponsor 54 indigents to study aeronautic and engineering at Isaac Malami University of the Management. The announcement was made during a check presentation ceremony at the Government House in Maiduguri, where the governor released an initial 2.5 billion naira to cover annual tuition and related costs under a 5-year program. The beneficiaries, drawn from all 27 local government areas, with 2 students selected from each, will undertake training in the engineering process: electrical and electronic engineering, matured engineering, software engineering, system engineering, and basic pilot training. The state government also approves an immediate support grant of 500,000 naira per student to cover resumption and other logistics. State officials said more than 3,000 candidates applied for the scholarship, with the final 54 selected after a screening and written examination process. Governor Zulu urged the students to remain focused and serve as ambassadors of the state, describing the initiative as part of effort to strengthen human capital development and position BORNO for future participation in Nigeria's aviation and technology sector. Moving forward, troops of Operation Haidikai have arrested an alleged Boko Haram drone and logistics supply and neutralized a suspected terrorist commander during coordinated operation in Adamawa and BORNO states. The arrest and engagement were confirmed on Thursday by Lieutenant Colonel Sani Uba, Media Information Officer at the Headquarters Joint Task Force Northeast. According to the military troops of Sector 4, apprehended a 28-year-old suspect, Ismail Mohammed, in Hong local government area of Adamawa State, recovering ammunition, military accoutrements, and food supplies. In a separate ambush around the VIZKID River link in Madigli, troops neutralized a commander identified as Abdullahi Mafa and recovered a AK-47 rifle with a loaded magazine. The military also arrested a 64-year-old suspect, Douala Usman Gubula, described as a drone supplier to insurgents at Midagali Motor Park. 2 errand drones, accessories, and solar power banks were recovered. In Ndu, BORNO state troops working with local vigilantes repelled insurgents' activity and neutralized a suspected informant. The military says the operations are part of ongoing effort to disrupt terrorist supply network and restore security across the Northeast. The African Union has signed a 3-year memorandum of understanding to promote civil nuclear energy across the continent as Africa continues to face a deep electricity deficit. The agreement, signed on February 13 in Addis Ababa during the Union's 39th summit, brings together the African Union's the Nuclear Energy Agency of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the African Commission on Nuclear Energy. It focuses on strengthening technical capacity, regulatory frameworks, and cooperation on the peaceful use of nuclear technology. The move comes as energy investment in Africa remains limited. According to the World Bank, about 666 million Africans still lack access to electricity, representing more than 80% of the global access gap. The International Energy Agency says the continent, home to nearly 20% of the world's population, attracts less than 3% of global energy investment. The African Development Bank estimated that more than $400 million will be needed by 2030 to achieve universal electricity access. Several countries are already advancing nuclear plants. South Africa remains the only African nation operating a commercial plant with 2 reactors at Koba. Egypt is constructing the El nuclear power plant, while Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and Uganda have taken formal steps towards introducing nuclear power. The International Atomic Energy Agency projects that installed nuclear capacity in Africa could increase significantly by 2050 as governments look to diversify energy source and close the power gap. In another news, Senegal's Game Association and the Minister of Communication, Telecommunication and Digital Affairs have signed a partnership to organize EFEST Africa in Dakar. The agreement, finalized on Africa February 13th, provides a framework for the international event focused on gaming, esports, technological innovation and digital transformation, aiming to showcase public and private initiative while boosting youth employability. The initiative supports the government's New Deal technology strategy to position Dakar as the African's innovation hub. Organizers plan to promote local startups, attract international investors, and facilitate networking between entrepreneurs, mentors, institutions, and partners. Same Games will manage projects coordinating and communication, while the ministry will provide technical and institutional support. Gaming is emerging as a significant sector in Senegal's digital economy, with an estimated CFA 49 billion market in 2025 and around 1.7 billion regular players. Initiatives like EFST Africa aim to structure the ecosystem, encourage local content creation, and attract investment, reflecting broader growth in gaming across Africa driven by smartphone adoption, connectivity improvement, and a young, digital engaged population. We'll go on a quick break now. The news continues when we return. Welcome back if you're just joining this Idea TV Midday News. Now the rest of the news. And away from Africa, after 4 years of conflict, millions of Ukrainians remain displaced, struggling to cope with lost homes and missing family members. 65-year-old Halem, who has fled her home 3 times since 2022, now lives in a dilapidated home in the city, central Ukraine, hundreds of kilometers from her hometown in the east, which is occupied by Russian forces. She fears she might never see her 2 sons again, one missing in action, the other likely held by Russian troops. Nearly 4 million people are displaced within Ukraine, with more than 5 million having fled abroad. Ukrainian President Zelensky has insisted that donors is inseparable from Ukraine's independence, refusing to cede territory despite U.S.-backed mediation efforts. Humanitarian conditions for internal refugees are worsening as aid dwells. Many families struggle to afford basic necessities, including food, heating, and medical care. Like Halma, like countless others, has refused offers to have Ukraine permanently leave Rikem permanently, remaining in her homeland despite the uncertainty and ongoing suffering caused by the war, which has left tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians dead or missing. And now in business, the federal government has announced the only 30% of the 2025 capital budget will be implemented this year, with the remaining 70% rolled over into the 2026 budget. The decision confirmed yesterday is aimed at fast-tracking project execution, clearing outstanding obligations, and ensuring seamless implementation across ministries, departments, and agencies. Minister of State for Finance, Doris, emphasized that all capital reimbursements must completely fully with the Public Procurement Act and would be backed by cash before execution. She stated that the government has sufficient funds to settle pending obligations and urged MDAs to update documentation for Welcome back. Now down to business. The federal government has announced that only 30% of the 2025 capital budget will be implemented this year, with the remaining 70% rolled out into the 2026 budget. The decision confirmed on Thursday is aimed at fast-tracking project execution, clearing outstanding obligations, and ensuring seamless implementation across ministries, departments, and agencies. Minister of State for Finance, Doris, emphasized that all capital disbursements must comply fully with the Public Procurement Act and be backed by cash before execution. She stated that the government has sufficient funds to settle pending obligations and urged MDAs to update documentation for timely payment processing. Accountant General Dr. Shimal added that the government integrated financial management information system has been fully restored, with warrants already issued to MDAs to commence the 30% allocation by the end of next week. The rollover affects a significant portion of last year's capital allocation, as MDAs receiving only a fraction of their 2025 budget, with less than 8% of projected capital funds released in the first 7 months. The government stressed that agencies must adhere to approved allocations, return utilities funds, and work closely with the GIFMIS officials to maintain fiscal discipline while ensuring continuity of ongoing projects. And now in health, Togo has launched a major campaign to restore childhood vaccination coverage disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Under the Big Catch Up initiative implemented with support from UNICEF, over 40,000 previously unvaccinated or undervaccinated children have been reintegrated into routine immunization services. The program focuses on 17 priority districts, including Greater Lim, Maritime, and other Kara, where most zero-dose children are actually concentrated. The strategy combines community outreach, social marketing, and strengthening accountability among health officials. Local communities play a key role in raising awareness and identifying unvaccinated children. Early results are encouraging, with coverage of the first dose of the vaccine increasingly by 58% points between July and December 2025. In targeted areas, authorities emphasize long-term sustainability, highlighting the need for continual community engagement as international partners gradually scale back support. The initiative also aims to improve transparency, counter misinformation, and restore public confidence in immunization, ensuring that gains achieved during the campaign are maintained. And moving forward, NAFDAC, the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, has sealed 18 warehouses in Bida, Niger State after uncovering expired food and beverage products valued at over 100 million naira. The enforcement action carried out by the agency's Investigation and Enforcement Directorate followed intelligence reports that the goods were being stored for disbursement. Recovered items include approximately 8,000 packets of non-alcoholic drinks, 5,000 packets of milk, 16,000 packets of bottled water, and 28 cartons of pasta, among other expired products. Warehouse managers were arrested for questionings with preliminary findings linking the facilities to buy ventures. Further investigations at the company's supermarkets in Mina also revealed expired products and suspected counterfeit Goya oils, leading to the sealing of those outlets and an invitation for the company's managing director for investigation. NAFDAC warns that the seal and consumption of expired products pose serious health risks, including food poisoning and long-term complications. The agency urged the public to check expiring dates and report suspicious goods, reaffirming its commitment to safeguarding public health by removing expired, counterfeit, and standard products and substandard products from circulation. And now in sports, the former UFC champion, welterweight King Kamaru Usman has unveiled his ambition end game. He plans to retire after being captured. He has been capturing both the welterweight and middleweight title. Commenting on his statement and legacy as one of the sport's greatest champions at 38, Usman has faced doubt following controversy, talks and losses to Leo Edward and a short-notice defeat to Kamhanza at middleweight. Yet his rebound victory over Joshua Buki reignites belief in his ability to climb back to the top. Usman's first mission to reclaim the welterweight belt has held for over 3 years. The division has involved with rising counterparts like Michael Lan, Gary, and Carlos Peters, reshaping the landscape. The middleweight challenge looms over Raj Hamza, who defeated Usman in his 185 pounds debut, has since captured the title with a dominant performance over Droscos du Plessis. Usman's quest to dethrone him would mark one of the most remarkable comebacks in UFC history. And that's all we have for you on Niger TV Midday News. But before we go, here is the recap of the headlines. ZULUM approves 12.9 billion scholarship for 54 BORNO students. And we brought you the army arrests Boko Haram drone supplier neutralizes command in Northeast. African Union signs deal to advance civil nuclear energy. DAKAR launches EFEST Africa to become continental tech hub, And away from Africa, Ukrainians mourn lost homes and loved ones after 4 years of war. In business, federal government defers 70% of 2025 capital budget to 2026. In health, Togo intensifies childhood vaccination drive post-COVID-19. And still in health, NAFDAC seals 18 warehouses in Niger State over expired food products. And finally in sport, USMAN sets signs on 2 Division UFC legacy before retirement. Do not forget to follow us across our social media platforms at Idea Television. I am Mary Ojimajo. Thank you for watching.